Our country is boiling over right now because of the murder of George Floyd at the hands of a Minneapolis police officer. This event has picked a scab in our nation, and protests have broken out all over our land, as we well know. And some of those protests have turned violent, and we've been reminded that there's a difference between peaceful protests and those anarchist groups that have tried to hijack these protests and use them for their own evil agenda. But what is at the root of our racial struggle? I read an article over the weekend, and the title was very provocative. The title was "Death by Racism, a Part of America's DNA from the Start?" Question mark at the end. And I read that article and talked about many of the systemic injustices towards African Americans and other minorities. And after I read the article, and I was thinking, what are we a racist nation? Is America a racist nation? And I want to say this. Racism is not an American problem. Racism is a human problem. It is not solely an American problem. Racism has been present throughout the history of the human race, and there are many, many instances today of it going on even as I speak, not just in our nation, not just in our country. Think about the most heinous examples of racism. The most heinous example would be genocide. And there are many genocides. There have been many genocides throughout the history of mankind. Just do a quick Google search of examples of genocide and you will see dozens of examples of genocide. It's defined as acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. You know, the most notable example, of course, that probably comes to mind is the Holocaust. And yet, at the same time, as I said, there are many examples. There's been genocide in the Soviet Union, in China, in Rwanda, in Bosnia, in Somalia, in Sudan. The list goes on of genocides. And then think also about ethnic cleansing. That's another issue. Some people say ethnic cleansing and genocide are the same thing, but sometimes ethnic cleansing is accomplished without killing, without outright killing of people. Ethnic cleansing is really the attempt to try to remove a certain class or a certain group of people, a certain race of people from an area. And sometimes they can just be displaced and it doesn't rise to the level of genocide. But the attempt is to make a homogeneous area where there's no, this particular ethnicity is not allowed in that area and such. So there's all these things that are just a part of our history and just a part of mankind throughout history. You know, this is a difficult and it's a disturbing subject to talk about. But if you want to talk about DNA, you want to talk about really what's in the DNA of a person, we've got to look beyond issues of race and any other sort of thing, sexism or any other kind of, ism that we look at that divides us one from the other. At the real heart of it all, the conditions that allow incidents like what just happen in our nation and continue to happen, you have to look at the sinful nature of man. That's what's in our DNA. Because of the sinful nature of man, there will always be the oppressed, there will always be oppressors, there will always be hatred, there will always be you are different than me, you look different than me, your way of looking at the world is different than mine. There will always be mistrust, there will always be grievances, there will always be injustices. That is part of the sinful nature of mankind. And every man-made solution will only bring further grievance and further injustice in one way or another. The only answer is Jesus Christ. The only answer is Jesus Christ because He is the only one that can change us on the inside. He is the only one that can change the heart of a person. We need, I'm not saying that there's not practical daily things that we all should be doing. But we need, as Christians, if you're a Christian and you're listening to me, we need a baptism of love, a fresh baptism of love, that we can see people through the eyes of Jesus, that we can love others as we love ourselves. So let's examine our heart first, our own heart first, but know where the real solution lies. It lies in Jesus Christ. He is the only answer because of that nature, that sinful nature that we inherit, that is a part of who we are. He's the only one that can change our hearts. Amen? God bless you.